What's up, guys? This is the House from Gun Gamers, and I have a couple of people with me. One new face to the Gun Gamers video channel. Why don't you say hello?
Hi, I'm Peter. I'm a huge fucking nerd, and that's why I'm here.
Exactly. He's very useful, and he fits right in. And this is Cory.
Hi, I'm Cory. I like Milsim. I'm definitely not a nerd.
Totally. He doesn't know anything about LARPing.
No.
But yeah, so actually what we're talking about today is we all, this past weekend, were at Omega Productions Desolation 2, which I think was as good as the first Desolation. None of you would know. Oh, sad. But we're actually talking about something pertinent to Omega Productions games and Milsim West Insurgency games, and maybe the Balahack Revelation series, Fertile Crescent type stuff. And that is actually making a character and then staying in that character and acting within that character, you know, for LARP Airsoft games. Don't mind him, you know, he didn't eat on the way here, and he's going to need plenty of food to absorb the alcohol.
Eric made me 2 drinks before we even sat down. I'm still finishing the second one.
Oh,
Go
what
ahead.
a pansy.
Create yourself a calorie fucking buffer for the punishment you're going to receive tonight from Eric's drinks.
Well, before we descend too far into drunken shenanigans, which I'm sure we will, let's first of all talk about, you know, so character creation. I brought Peter in on this, number one, because he's the newest member of the Gun Gamers team, and number two, because he's super good at a lot of this character creation and roleplay type stuff, you know, even more than me, which I'm okay. Peter is, like, super knowledgeable on this.
Yeah, so I've been, just a little background, I've been doing role-playing games for about 10-15 years. Dungeons & Dragons, Warhammer 40k roleplay, Our Last Best Hope, just pretty much anything really to pen and paper. I haven't really been super into LARP and live-action stuff until Omega events, but a lot of this stuff from pen and paper transfers over to the LARP stuff. You just don't have it all written down. It's all pretty much up in your head.
Yeah, and that's something that I don't know as well, because I've dabbled in pen and paper tabletop role-playing games, and I like them. My schedule's too insane to get a regular group together, but a lot of what you do for that type of tabletop role-playing game really does carry over in the way that you can kind of build a character and build a persona to portray for the duration of a lot of these roleplay games, these, you know, live-action Airsoft roleplay games. And you played Airsoft before you did any of the LARP stuff, so you already knew about Airsoft and you knew about roleplay, and then putting those together, I think, is something that's interesting. Whereas Cory, have you ever really dabbled in roleplay, like, at all?
Not really. Basically, for me, I really like storytelling. I really like reading. I really like fucking fake shit.
And you're into, like, role-playing games, like video games.
Yeah, like I like role-playing video games a lot. Like, I'm always back and forth between first-person shooters and role-playing, and I really like that sweet middle spot that's first-person shooter role-playing games. Like, I mean, Fallout's great.
Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be the fucking hype.
That's going to be amazing.
Really so, and then, you know, I'm kind of in the middle. Like, I've dabbled in tabletop. I've dabbled in LARP. I attended, like, some of the, you know, predecessor Omega games, I would call, like the Demon Seed game that Frank first hosted before starting Omega, 8 years before starting Omega.
I'm so mad after playing Omega that I couldn't make it to that, because I was playing Airsoft at the time Demon Seed 1 and 2 were out, and I just couldn't make it.
I'm mostly mad I had to wait 7 years for a proper follow-up.
That's true.
But no, now it's here and it's worth it. So,
absolutely.
So we're going to talk about, okay, so a lot of people will go to these games.
Yes.
And they'll go to, whether it be Milsim West Insurgency, whether it be Omega Productions, they'll go to this game, and it's not your normal Airsoft game.
No, it is not.
I mean that in a really good way.
Yeah.
But it's very much focused on roleplay. Excuse me. It's very much focused on roleplay interactions between players and non-player characters, and maybe antagonistic factions or neutral factions, and a lot of it is supposed to be very character-driven.
Yes.
And I think a lot more interesting interactions come about when people have a sense of what character they're role-playing. Even if it is just kind of a self-insert, I think when you have an idea of what your motivations for the game are and what your goals are and what you want out of the game, I think that you go in better prepared and have a better experience.
That's absolutely true. Yeah.
And I think that something that brings up is read, like, whatever event you're going to, whether it be Omega, whether it be Milsim West, read the background story and the lore of the event you're going to, and make sure that what you're doing fits the theme and the general scope of the event. You hardly want to go to, say, a Milsim West Insurgency game trying to roleplay as a space cowboy who traveled through time. Like, that
doesn't make sense.
That doesn't make sense. I'd argue, I mean, that doesn't really make sense for any of the games we're talking about.
No,
maybe for like some one-off thing or something else or something yet to come, that would make sense. But for anything we're talking about, like, none of that makes sense. But if you...
Fertile Crescent is the only one I can see that happening for.
Maybe. Even those, I think, are supposed to be a little more grounded.
Yes.
But yeah, like, read the lore of the event that you're going to and make sure that whatever you're doing fits with the theme. And then don't just think of, okay, well, I want to do this character. Why do you want to do that character? And I think that ties into what some of the parts of a character are. And you can just say, oh, I'm this person. Okay, but who is that person? What do they want? And that ties into the formula you were talking about before we started filming. That goes back to the Dungeons & Dragons rulebook.
Yeah, so if you're unaware, D&D is on its 5th edition right now. I just brought the Player's Handbook because it's a good reference guide. But for character creation, they have an optional section on backgrounds. So whatever your background is, it could be what you are in real life. Like, I'm a security guard, so I have a little bit of understanding of, like, a command structure, firearms, like, and some tactical movement in a gunplay setting or whatever. Eric, you were playing a trader. I don't really know how much that fits in with your character, but your background is a little bit of business.
I mean,
everything else.
Yeah, my background for the trader character was basically like, hey, I do some business, and that's my main goal. Like, I'm not a gunfighter.
Yes.
So it's hard to pretend like you don't know how to use your gun that you bring to a game.
Yeah.
So what I actually will do instead of that, and I've done this 3 times now, is if I'm playing a character who's not going to be overtly violent, or at least my goal is that they're not going to be overtly violent, I bring kind of bad weapons. Like, I went to Milsim West's Insurgency, the Chechen Collapse, and I was playing as a cola salesman. And my goal was to, like, not shoot all weekend. So I brought a rifle and 1 magazine for it. So not only was I role-playing as a character, and I didn't bring any load-bearing gear, I didn't bring, like, a speed loader, I brought literally 1 magazine, 1 rifle, and I, like, never had it with me. So then shit would pop off, and not only was I role-playing as a character who was drastically underprepared for a firefight that they're not really ready for, I actually was drastically underprepared for sudden firefights.
Your little cola stand, gunshots pop off, and you have to run a block and a half to get your rifle or something.
Yeah. So that kind of, like, actually made that character more fun to play because I really couldn't shoot back that effectively most of the time. I didn't carry a gun usually. And then at the trader characters I played at Revenant, I used a mare's leg that was like half broken. That wasn't by design. I just wanted to use the mare's leg.
He got it Friday morning.
Yeah, I
shot
borrowed
once,
it.
didn't shoot again until like an hour later when Matt fixed it finally.
Yeah. And then I brought just a pistol to Revenant. Or not, excuse me. I brought a pistol to Desolation 2. So if you're kind of trying to play as a character who's a little more passive, maybe weapons that reflect that are a better way to do it because you can't really pretend like you don't know how your gun works.
Yeah.
I mean, you could, but
it gets to a little bit silly. Like, oh no, you put your magazine upside down? That doesn't really kind of
Yeah.
fit. You've been surviving this long, you should have some knowledge of your gear in this storyline, in this post-apocalyptic world, that you can survive up until this point. You're not a fresh, I walked out of a bunker character like in Fallout where you pick up 3 sticks, you craft a pistol, and you go and kill some rad roaches. This isn't that. You've been wandering for a while.
Yeah, and you compare that to my my Raider character I did the first Desolation, where I had an AK with 2 full mid caps duct taped to each other and a single action army secondary. I had like a real usable solid rifle setup there that like I could just schwack people with because that was an aggressive character. I was supposed to be a dick.
Yes. Yeah, and then Cory, I think for the most recent game, you were a mechanic. I don't know how that ties in with your real life background of your character.
I've worked a lot with tools. So I've worked with a lot of tools in the Army, and then I got out and I was a tradesman for a little bit. I worked for a pool company, so I did plumbing. I did like general mechanic shit. You know, I've just always been around. The biggest thing is I've always been around people who are mechanics.
Yeah, so you have that real world knowledge of how this stuff works, which does tie in with the bushcraft versus the LARP. Mm-hmm. In LARP, there's terminology called hard skills and soft skills. Hard skill would be land navigation, gunfighting, lock picking, that sort of stuff you can actually use in real world. Soft skill is rolling some dice and saying your character does this. Getting back into the Dungeons and Dragons.
We've gone an average amount of tangents.
Yeah, that sounds about right for videos. So the Player's Handbook has a section on ideals, bonds, and flaws, and obviously personality backgrounds. Mm-hmm. So this is different than character backgrounds of I was a ex-government scientist, or I was a mechanic, or I was a security guard, and I just have my, duty sidearm sort of thing on me. Ideals are what drives your character, what keeps them going in this post-apocalyptic world, their moral compass almost. Bonds are what connects your character to people, places, things in the world. It could be your past. It could be connected even more to your ideals, where you came from, where you're going.
It could be that like another character you have with you is your brother or like your best friend or something.
And then finally we got character flaws. Character flaws are obvious. It can be being too headstrong, being too bold,
being addicted to drugs,
being
too impressionable.
You and Lutz, for this one, Lutz was an EMT character. Obviously, his background is real EMT. They came to the Friday Night Fight Pit with the sole goal of just protesting the fight pit.
I think it took around Chris getting hit 3 or 4 times before they
Chris from Amped, I threw into the fight pit as the first round against one dude who has been doing dagger here battles for a little while. He brought his own LARP weapon, one of the only guys with a white class weapon there. Completely destroyed Chris. Chris probably has bruises on his arms from getting both of his arms hacked off. Lutz was giggling like a schoolgirl after seeing Chris get his ass kicked. It was fantastic. His demeanor changed from this is the dumbest thing ever. I don't want people to die because I'm getting hired to fix them and that wastes my valuable medical resources to fuck everybody. You're all savages. And then went on Saturday to put up not 1, not 2, probably 3 different bounties on random player characters.
Yeah, it was
it was all people that like shot him when he was trying to medic people. He's like, you know what? Fuck that guy. He just like put out bounties for him.
Yep. So, this is something to think of when you create your character. Obviously, you don't need to have everything that we're listing when you create a character. You can just be a nomadic survivor that lives in whatever city you live in and had access to an AR with a couple mags. That could be you and a little bit of background in camping and a little bit of background in, guns. That's fine. The average everyday person would probably survive a post-apocalyptic event like this. The zombie apocalypse is going to be a formal affair. A lot of people are going to be in business attire. It's just going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't remember who made that quote, but whoever it is, I'm sure somebody else knows it. But yeah, the zombie apocalypse is going to be a formal affair. But is the quote that I usually use.
Well, and that's that's building your character.
Yes.
I mean, obviously you have an idea of who your character is, what your character wants, and what your character is going to do, or what your character is going to try to do, and then the event, unfolds. Mm-hmm. But that's where the interesting part comes in, and where I think a lot of people struggle. And this is something I have struggled with in the past. I've gotten much better at it recently. Mm-hmm. As the event unfolds, how do you stay in that character?
Yes.
This is something that I think you were pretty good at. Like, how do you stay in that character or evolve that character? Because I think static characters are kind of boring.
Yeah.
Not just to play, but also and again, I'm peeling it back to my staff perspective, to interact with.
Yeah.
Because as the trader character, how boring is it if every time you go to town, it's the same trader for the whole weekend? Mm-hmm. Maybe, Friday night you go into town and the trader is really friendly. Saturday night you go into town, the trader's pretty friendly. Sunday morning you go into town, the trader at the night raid got his other leg shot and now he's crippled in both legs and now he's addicted to snorting comet dust. So
We're sorry as cultists.
It was a lot of fun, though.
It was great. I was part of the execution squad. Everyone else was manning the castle. We're sorry.
it was really fun. Though.
It was great. It
Yeah.
was fantastic.
People loved the high rate for that.
I believe the one camera guy got video of it for all the people who were too far down the path. That didn't see the whole execution go down.
Where I'm just telling you, do it, you fucking pussy.
Second leg gets shot, smoke grenades go out, we all retreat back to the castle.
Yeah. But then you evolve that character and find ways to evolve that character. And I think that's something that's interesting.
Yeah,
So
it's a
you
lot
as
of
the
fun.
mechanic, you touched on some evolution.
Oh, absolutely.
Of how to start, you were very noble,
Yeah.
you were very selfless. And then as the weekend went on, you kind of started to feel like Travis Ryan. And you're like, man, we cannot perish fast enough. And if you get that reference, you are cool. And you should listen to Cattle Decapitation
Oh
if
my
you haven't.
god. So yeah, so I started out as this I tried to be this wholesome mechanic who was just trying to help people. That's why me and Lutz's character bonded. And then we created a backstory that we actually came there together. And just kind of following the caravans. And we get there, and the first day and a half, the first day I was just telling people, hey man, I lost my tools, the Russians took them.
Those Russians were fucking great, by the way.
Oh, they were hilarious.
Yeah, they were great.
So, and then the tools were for me to build water filtration systems.
So that was your main
Yeah.
drive.
So that
but
was my
then,
main drive.
But your character did not stay the same.
No.
That's what I was
So
really getting at, is your character changed.
after I gave them water, then as a character, I decided, what would be really cool? If my character just went off the fucking deep end because I just gave everyone fresh water and they're still killing each other.
Yeah.
So that's what I wanted to do. And, I let Frank know, and Lutz was like, yeah, I kind of like this idea too. Let's just start shooting people who start causing trouble. And that's what we
so
did.
you guys kind of became like, hey, we want to help people, but you won't help yourselves, so we'll be like the law in this town.
Yeah, so we were like a bunch of self-righteous assholes, basically.
Yeah.
And it was great, and I think it helped.
My character arc was a little dark.
Oh boy.
So my character was the trader in the center of town, and he was pretty friendly, pretty jovial, pretty reasonable the whole event. And then on Saturday night for the night raid, the cultists took me, and the players had to rescue me, or else there wouldn't be any trade on Sunday. And
Yes.
because I was the main source of ammo, these guys were pretty interested in getting me back. Well, the cultists shot my other leg, and I decided to play it because I wrote my character, and this is something I actually, real quick tangent, I wrote my character as being immobile without the use of a crutch. And I wrote this not only because it would be an interesting thing I thought to roleplay, but because I literally was going into this game with a partially open surgical incision on my tailbone and an actually fucked up ankle. So when you're writing your character, you might want to take in mind some of your physical limitations if you have those in real life. Because in real life, out of character, I actually really shouldn't be moving that much.
Yeah.
And doing the things that I want to do. So I wrote that into my character, and I actually could not move without the use of a crutch. That was something I wrote. And then I crippled my other leg in character because of the actions of the cultists. And then with 2 crippled legs, I had previously been hooked on painkillers that the Russians had been providing me, which were good and plenties, which are black licorice flavored, which are, I'm like one of 3 people on Earth who likes black licorice, apparently. Yeah, you, me, and one of the Russian guys all like black licorice, and everyone else hates it.
Which is why we use it as in-game drug, because most people are like, this tastes like ass, I don't want any more.
Meanwhile, I'm like, I will pay you for all of that. So my character was like taking that before he was even addicted to comet dust. My character had the seed planted of, hey, my character's in pain because he's a cripple and he needs or wants drugs. And then the Russians disappeared because they became different characters, and I was crippled in both legs. So I started doing the in-game drugs, which were lemonade powder and powdered sugar and
I don't agree with
bottle
drugs.
caps. But
Drugs are bad.
so my character, now that both of his legs were crippled, got addicted to drugs. And I started snorting the comet dust. And
he actually snorted the comet dust off of his gun barrel.
Which is not a good idea.
No.
That hurt.
If you've ever snorted pixie sticks, it's that, but a little bit more granular.
Yeah, don't do that. But there's some lore in relation to the comet dust that I took into account. And my character became manic and started having severe mood swings as a result of use of the comet dust. And I started threatening customers. I started waving my gun around. And at one point, I was threatening to shoot myself. And some player characters who were around me and Lutz in characters, the EMT, had to talk me out of it. And it became real dark. It was
pretty dark. I was over manning the fight pit, and I heard all of this secondhand after the game went over, and I was like, Jesus Christ.
It got real fucked up. All right, average number of tangents. So I guess the point here, the point of this is there's a lot of interesting interactions you can set up.
If you have a character.
Yeah, when you go into a game with a character set up. And granted, don't take this as, oh, well, I have to go super in-depth with a roleplay character. I'm not going to have any fun. That's not true. There's plenty of people who go there who've never done LARP, never done Dungeons & Dragons, never done roleplay of any kind, and end up having a blast.
Yes.
Just because they embrace it and they go along with the experience and they try to kind of go with the flow and feel it out. That is something you could totally do. But I think the next level of enjoyment after that is you go in and you say, what's my goal? What do I want out of this game? What character am I going to play? And what am
I going to bring to this game to help that character evolve?
Yeah, and I think that once you start experimenting with that, you really reach that next level of nirvana where you're just totally immersed. I think it's just a different level of immersion that you achieve. And this is, we've talked a lot about Omega. An example of this I'm going to use is Milsim West, because take a shot, Milsim West drinking game for this team. My drink is empty. Yeah, I'll take a shot after this. But yeah, so at Milsim West Chechen Collapse, I went as a civilian. And if you go as a civilian without a business or a job or a character that you're playing to Milsim West, insurgency games, that sucks ass. You don't know what you're doing. You have no real goal. Or you go as NATO, and I don't want to shit on NATO. That's a Milsim West meme. But a lot of people go as NATO and don't really have any experience role-playing and don't really get into the role-playing. And as a result, the civilians usually hate NATO because they try to role-play with NATO and NATO just shoots them.
I was going to say, didn't you try to sell stuff to NATO and they just drew down on you at a checkpoint when you're trying to peddle a couple bottles of Coca-Cola? Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the thing is it's more enjoyable when you build that character. And I went into that game as a cola salesman. And my goal was to be a cola salesman and sell all my cola. And I sold all my cola, and the security company affiliate we had made a shitload of money getting super in bed with the government. Because our goal was, hey, let's make a shitload of money because we're businessmen. We don't care about the politics. We don't care about anything. We just want to make a bunch of money. And we made so much money that we bought people's ammo for the final firefight on Sunday. So to us, we won that event. We went in as characters. We stayed in character. We didn't do a lot of the shady shit that could have been interesting and led to more firefights because our characters wanted to just be businessmen. And as a result, we ended up making a shitload of money and buying people's ammo for the last firefight on the last day, and that was winning for our characters. So that's just staying in character, keeping with the theme, and getting that next level of enjoyment out of it. Because I'll tell you what, I don't think I would have enjoyed that game as much had I not known what I was doing going into it. And I don't think I would enjoy Omega games as much if I didn't have an idea of what I was doing, why I was doing, and what I was role-playing. And it's been easy for me doing the staff thing because the staff guys will say to me, Frank and Alex, will be like, hey, we want you to play this role within the event, build a character for that, and I get kind of a starting point. But anyone can do that is the thing. Anyone, staff or not, can build that character and then become a core part of the event in their own right.
So come with a character, come with just a little bit of backstory, and then be prepared to build off other people's backstories. There's going to be somebody,
improvise and evolve.
Yes, absolutely improvise. Because whatever the game throws at you, people weren't expecting to have some sort of religious fanatic again. We had that at the first Desolation.
Well, no, at the first
Sort of with the
Desolation, it
Raiders.
wasn't a religious fanatic.
Wasn't?
It was just... No, it wasn't a religious fanatic. It was just a guy who was just fucking obsessed with the idea that the world deserved what happened.
Oh, okay.
So he was like kind of a zealot to an ideology, but it wasn't a cult.
Okay, all right. So they built off of it for more of a cult for the second game.
Yeah.
But there will be stuff in the game that you can build your character off of.
Yep.
We had, during the final fight, people who had been pledging themselves to the cult since Friday be baptized, like Simba style,
Yeah.
with the cult sigil, and then fought on our side during the defense of the town when we reassaulted it.
Yeah.
It was really cool to see random survivors join up and pull yellow stuff out of their bags and just start gunning people down. Like,
Yeah, so if you go and if you have an interesting idea for an interaction you could have, odds are probably fair game.
yeah.
Like, you could probably do it. There's no reason you can't. Like I said, unless you actually, like, physically, or assault somebody or sexually harass somebody or steal someone's shit. Like, not game shit. Like, real personal shit. But other than that, it's pretty much all fair game.
Yeah, if you're not sure, just ask in the group if something's allowed.
Yeah,
and
check
Frank and Alex will tell you.
Yeah, check the Survive Omega Events general interest group. Both Peter and I are in there, Frank and Alex are in there, and you'll get some help along the way.
Yeah.
I think that's enough of us, though. We've been rambling on for like an hour at this point.
Yeah.
It's
It's about an hour.
it's about an hour.
That works.
So I think that'll do it for this one. So once again, I've been E-House,
I've been Peter.
and you'll see more of him.
Probably.
He has to get broken in yet, but
Yeah.
you'll see more of him. One of these days, he'll be comfortable enough to get closer into frame. All right. Thank you for watching.
Slide on this carpet.
Yeah, thank you for watching. We hope you enjoyed this, and we hope to see you at Omega Games, Insurgency Games, Revelations, whatever large
Desert
style
Fox events. You're
Desert
running
Fox, anything. Yeah, I'm running the TAN team at Desert Fox events in July. But any game that you go to that we're at, we hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching. Peace. Thank you for watching this video from Gun Gamers. We hope you enjoyed watching it as much as we enjoyed making it. Check the description below if you'd like to buy a t-shirt or a patch, and use the coupon code JUDY10 for 10% off of your next order at Amped Airsoft. Thank you again for watching, and praise Judy.